This is Mortal Kombat 1, which shouldn't be confused with the original. This is the reboot, and we're here on Xbox Series X, finally taking a look at the game. Be sure to like the video, subscribing is great as well. So this is a reboot and a sequel to Mortal Kombat 11, taking place in the new timeline created by Liu Kang in the Aftermath expansion. So what are we getting here? It's a 4K resolution, dynamic 4K resolution, but it's very upper bounds to the point that it's about native 4K, 60 FPS. Now the cinematics are going to still be 30 FPS. We'll have a little cinematic showcase a bit later on that kind of presents that. So it is a bit jarring as gameplay kind of transitions from like 30 to 60, and but regular combat is smooth 60 FPS, which is kind of what you would desire for this particular offering. HDR support, and yeah, this is a revamped experience, so it is kind of changing things up in some rather intriguing ways. That being the fact that there's now this sort of cameo system where you're doing a split battle where you have an extra fighter with you. This is a big change up. It's just kind of making things a little bit different for the series, which I like the idea that they're trying to keep things fresh, but I don't find that there's too many of these cameo characters, and it's just kind of like the same sort of thing over and over again with them, so I don't necessarily love that inclusion for this particular offering, but from what I've been reading and stuff, some people kind of like the system, so I mean, it's neat and it's different, and it's kind of cool having this like side character pop in, but they don't really have any personality in regular kind of gameplay, and it's just kind of this weird extra little thing that could have almost been environmental as opposed to just being an extra character that you kind of fight alongside. It is switching up the formula, and you see some favorites for characters are not present within this one because they're cameo characters, and that's a bit odd. Local play up to 2, online I guess up to 8 depending on the situation and the setups you're doing. It's got all of the different kind of expectations that you would have for the series. You've got the story mode, which has intense cinematic moments and action and fighting and combat and delivery of the narrative as these characters interact with each other across this new world where they have the chance for peace and everything like that, I guess is the big thing they're sort of pushing with that story. So you do a little bit of narrative, like a cinematic, and then you fight, and then cinematic, and then you fight, that kind of thing. You got your towers, you've got your quick kind of verses, you got your online multiplayer stuff. It's very much your normal, expected Mortal Kombat experience. It's just been upgraded for the current era. Now, I do want to mention, going back to the visuals, I do think this game is really visually quite sharp. It's quite visually stunning, a very high fidelity thing, but it does use FSR, which definitely is very, very presentable during like when you see like water or kind of like shimmery effects. You kind of see that. I don't know how well that shows up depending on what screen you're watching this on, but kind of like on reflective platforms, like it is quite noticeable, the FSR application. But the character models and the skins, like I think there's maybe like a fine-tuned sort of overlay effect that's very lightly kind of known, like a little bit of a grainy type thing that maybe hides it a bit better, or maybe that grain thing kind of is the FSR in play. But yeah, it does have a pretty clean, high fidelity image. It's smooth, it's graphic, it's violent, it's the Mortal Kombat series you expect, the fatalities. It feels very much like a natural follow-up to Mortal Kombat 11. It just sort of, cleans things up, presents it for the current generation, does some new things with the story, it has some different mode features. It really, it is so much of what we've kind of experienced. Online tournaments, and it's just more of a next step for the Mortal Kombat series, and it takes up a lot of hard drive space. I almost never mention this in my videos, but this one is massive. It was like 170 plus gigabytes when I was checking it out. That fluctuates and it's probably only going to grow over time, but I was like, that is excessive. So yeah, that's a hard one to keep on the on the drive there. So we do have, we're supposed to have cross-play, cross-progression, and, that's kind of nice, at least between the modern platforms, and You know, I like the vibe of it, I like the excitement. It's all the flair and the style that you would expect from the Mortal Kombat games, and the action, and it's got some cool guest DLC characters and stuff, and I'm sure they're going to add more over time. But, yeah, this one is, it's odd to some degree. I think the cameos are going to kind of be a place of kind of confusion for some may really like it. I felt that I think if there was more cameos, more characters to choose from in the cameos, that it would be a little bit more dynamic and interesting, because it really just kind of, at least from what I was playing, came down to like the same ones being used over and over and over again, and you know, doing the same kind of animations, and that kind of gets repetitive. Whereas the characters, you know, there's a great healthy roster selection of characters that you can kind of fight with. You know, they look very vibrant, colorful, they all have distinct moves, combat, ultimates, everything like that. They smoothly fight, their animation work is great, they're all distinct in their aesthetics and their designs, and yeah, sure, some of the favorites aren't present in that way, but you know, every game's gonna have different rosters for different stories and different setups, right? Just makes sense. But I was just kind of like a little, I don't know, I felt the cameos were a bit basic for what they are. Like, they're fun little side things, but yeah, a little repetitive for me in style is what I'm mostly trying to get across there. The selection of arenas is excellent. There's a plenty amount of them. You can also adjust those arenas to some degree too. Like, there's like a Halloween version of like the one spot, which was kind of funny. But I love the backdrops. They're vibrant, they're colorful, they're alive, they're distant. You feel like actual places, like physical places that you're in fighting across these realms and locales, and you know, the characters really naturally feel like they're part of those environments. So I quite like that element of it. I think it looks really, really good visually and aesthetically. I think it's a great direction. Combat, the gore, the violence, the ultimates all look really, really nice, and just seeing like the flair of these characters fighting and destroying one another is very aesthetically and visually pleasant, and it all handles smoothly and well. And you know, it's a Mortal Kombat game. At the current point in time, we're seeing them kind of feel similar from entry to entry to entry, so this is a bit of a change up. We still obviously have Mortal Kombat 11 if this one's a bit too weird, but yeah, I kind of liked it, and I did find it kind of interesting, but I can definitely see where some players will kind of be like, oh, this is a bit too weird, a bit too different. For me, it was honestly a little strange seeing some of the cameos in play, and it was a little harder to get used to, but I still enjoy the fun and the magic that is Mortal Kombat. And I think, you know, visually and vibrant wise, like, it's really, really quite beautiful looking, honestly. Even with that FSR bit applied, I still think this one looks really, really good, really smooth. So I had some fun playing some matches, checking some things out, diving into bits of the story, and taking it in finally, as I missed this one right off the bat. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this look at Mortal Kombat 1, if you decided to do so, and I'll have a little bit of non-commentary gameplay so you can see some of that in action too for this fighting game, and hopefully we'll get to check out the game later on another platform.
No one welcomes your people, do they?
Only other Tarkatans. Round one, fight.
Trying to hit me and hit
Round
me.
two, fight.